I got ADHD, baby. I set my goals, not your expectations, baby. I need my tools and a brain vacation, baby. Neurodivergent flow, no limitation, baby.
Thank you all for joining me, and you have the pleasure of seeing both of us. And so today, again, my name is Megan. I am the founder and head coach of ADHD at Work, where I help women thrive in their career and in life. And we have a guest here today, Coach Lourdes, and we are going to be talking about ADHD and strengths-based coaching and just our strengths in general. And so, Lourdes, do you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So first, I think it's important for everybody to know that we know each other from college, and the
Oh, yeah.
reason why I start there is because I actually was diagnosed with ADHD in college, my sophomore year. Remember going to the library over and over, just trying to study, attempting to learn the material, thinking Tufts was really, really tough. And I'm putting that in quotations because it's the corniest joke ever. But I realized that, like, no, I'm competent, I'm smart, I'm intelligent. Like, I got here for a reason, but something's off with the way that I'm engaging with the material and engaging with school right now. So that's what prompted me to go check it out. I was not about the like medicine at first because I also was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in college, and I was like, I'm already taking insulin every single day. I don't need something else on my plate. But
Yeah.
eventually I did, start using Adderall, and it was really helpful, but also interacted pretty interestingly with my diabetes. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to have this, like, yeah, the two things all at once, and you're on your own dealing with it all.
Yeah, I'm glad you started there, and then I'll let you continue. But
Yeah.
what's so interesting is we both went to the same university,
Hmm.
and you were able to get supports and I was not, right? And so, and that's like a variety of different reasons. I think maybe we can talk about that afterwards, but I just want to
Yeah.
throw that out
I
there.
mean, let's talk about it now.
Okay.
Like, did you seek out those supports?
I didn't. And so, I grew up with this idea that I was just supposed to be able to handle everything on my own, and then I wasn't supposed to be in a position I wasn't supposed to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And so, growing up with this mentality of you can do everything yourself and not having a true safe space to be able to tell somebody that you're struggling with something, where
Mm-hmm.
just like struggles feel normal and struggles are normalized, and then like you just don't know that you're struggling, right? And so I was experiencing these similar challenges, but I didn't think that anything was wrong with it. And so I was very
Yeah.
isolated in some sense, and so didn't know to ask, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the skill set that I needed in order to know that something was going on, and I didn't have to struggle, right? And so like that was the ADHD stage, but I also needed glasses. Like I went through undergrad and graduate school and part of working
No,
without getting a
no.
prescription, and then I finally got a prescription. And I was like, oh, that's what those billboards say.
That's why life was so blurry.
And so
Yeah.
in my mind, I would just adapt, right? And
Yeah.
so I just adapted. And so I
Sat at the front
adapted
of the
to, yeah, I
classroom,
would just
squinted your
sit up
eyes.
front.
I know the vibes.
And right. So like, oh, you're sitting in the back of the class and you can't see, then you just move to the front. And so then you can
Hmm.
see it again. Or I'm like, oh, well, I'll just yawn and get my eyes all watery and then I can see perfectly fine.
Oh
Right. And so
wow. Oh
it's terrible.
wow.
It's
That's
a
a
terrible story.
tactic.
I used all the strategies that did not make sense in real life. And so, but it was the same, like applying my lack of awareness around my ability to see or not see, and knowing that I could correct my vision by
Mhm.
just getting some glasses. It's the same thing that came with ADHD at Tufts. Like I didn't know that I could
Mhm.
get additional supports. Like I didn't know any of these things. And then I didn't ask. And then nobody said anything to me either. And so I would be the one that would be in the middle, like my room was a mess, like stuff was everywhere. I was
Oh
doing
yeah.
everything last minute.
Oh yeah.
Um, and like turning in assignments, and professors didn't say anything. My advisor didn't say anything. There's all the other adults in my life didn't say anything. Other classmates would just think it was funny. And I'm like, this is not funny, but
How about
okay.
forgetfulness? Like totally. And that interacting with my type 1 diabetes was like, oh, I just ate all these peanut butter Reese cups from what, Hodgdon or right, like one of those places. And I'm over here like, oh my God, I forgot to take insulin. And there's
Mhm.
big repercussions for that in the short term and the long term. By the way, you can't see me, but you have a fidget in your hand, and I
I
have a
do.
fidget on my table that I just held up for everybody. It's so
Oh,
interesting.
oh yeah. This is what gets me through.
Uh-huh.
Um, Most of these conversations, or just really anything in general. Um,
Always on the table, ready to pick up.
I
Yeah.
have one everywhere. And then now with like, I have a toddler too, so it keeps him entertained for about 5 minutes. Um,
Yeah.
but it keeps me like, those 5 minutes are
Oh
precious.
yeah.
If I can get 5 minutes, then it feels like an hour.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I mean, the idea and the concept of like we both went to the same place,
It's an
grew up,
interesting one.
grew up differently, right,
Mhm.
and had completely different mindset, and then one sought supports and one didn't. Like I didn't get
Mhm.
diagnosed until I was 38.
Well, it's interesting though, because your story resonates. It's not like I'm over here asking for help from people all the time either. Like I'm still working on me and
Mm-hmm.
definitely yeah, that's not one of my strengths to ask for help, but I think because I had already developed a relationship with Tufts Medical
Yeah.
Center through my diagnosis with diabetes, like Michelle Bowdler. Anyway, she was the director of Tufts Medical Center, and she was just so supportive. I will sing her praises from here to there
That's
every single
awesome.
day. Yeah, they were really, really supportive, and I'm trying to pinpoint who did I speak to, who did I reach out to that even led me to have that diagnosis or that like initial evaluation, because I too don't think that I would have sought out anything. And the reason why, I even found out I was type 1 diabetic was not because I sought out help. It was like
Yeah.
at the last moment of desperation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it made me wonder, what was that moment in time that allowed me to even ask for help?
Hmm.
But I did. I eventually got it. And yeah, that was helpful.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did that. And I try not to go down the I shoulda, coulda, woulda lane.
Hmm.
I don't really think that that's helpful in a lot of ways. I mean, it's helpful in the sense of like I can learn from it and do something different moving forward,
Hmm.
and notice whether or not I'm repeating the same mistakes. And so in that way, it's helpful.
Hmm.
But it is not helpful to like stay in that place. Like, man, if this was
Yeah.
25 years ago, then I would have done X, Y, and Z. And I can't believe 25 years ago actually isn't an exaggeration now that I said it out loud.
It's real life. It is.
Jeez. Oh, okay.
It's real life. Yeah, here we are 20 years later. Yup.
Oh
But
man, that's
I
so
hear you.
real. But
I hear
yeah,
you. Not staying in that mode of like, what
yeah,
what it could have been like. I think probably it was what it needed to be so that you could be here as the founder and head coach of ADHD at work. It's a
exactly.
powerful, powerful story and a powerful purpose.
Exactly. I love that strength spin. Um, that you did right there.
It's embedded in my soul.
I love that. But it's so important. Like, you don't want to, because I mean, you can sometimes get, this whole concept of like toxic positivity, right? And so
Hmm.
you don't want to necessarily spin everything to like be ultra positive, but I think that there is a lot of value in being able to see multiple sides of a
Yeah.
situation
Mm-hmm.
at
Yeah.
the same time. But we're talking about ADHD strengths. And so, can you tell us a little bit about your coaching practice and the strengths work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm ICF certified life leadership and career coach, and I am also a Gallup Strengths Finders certified coach. So, all of that means I went to Gallup downtown in Washington, D.C., and learned about the 34 strengths. And learned about how Strength Finders is a tool worldwide that is supporting people in living their best lives and truly understanding who they are. So I've taken the test a couple of times. It spits out the top five, top 10, or top 35, or the full 35 list. And I can show our viewers here today. This is mine all marked up. You can't see it, Megan, but it's all marked up. It's got post-it notes on it, and I'm just so proud to know what's my unique makeup. So Strength
Mhm.
Finders, it really does take in what is your unique combination of strengths. And what I love about it is that it helps you think about too the categories of strength. So the bulk of my top five are in relationship building and influencing and executing. I have one strategic top strength in my top five. That's intellection, sort of what you were talking about before, but right, like the ability to do deep reflection and
Mhm.
to think deeply about things. And obviously the thing that you want to look out for, the blind spot in that particular strength is going down a road where you don't want your thinking to go,
Mhm.
right? Like the negative Nancy road. But strengths, they say you use your top five 60% of the time and your top 10 90% of the time. And so that's why I focus in my coaching and my facilitation on the top 10, because you have a wide variety of strengths that you get to flex and energize and exercise. What I also like about it is in relation to my ADHD, when I've paired, what are the things that I have challenges with ADHD, and where can my strengths come into play? Where can I
Mhm.
celebrate the things that are a part of my neurospicy life?
Mhm.
It really helps me just be clear on how ADHD is a special thing that I get to harness alongside my strengths. So I've been doing a lot of reflection on that, and yeah, want to talk about it more.
I love that spin. I haven't taken it in a really long time. I feel like I took it a really, really long time ago. And I'm interested to see where it's at now that I'm in a completely different place in my life.
Yeah, yeah. They say
Um,
to take it every 7 years, considering, right, like all the different things that come up, getting married, having a baby, maybe moving different locations, having a new job, etc.
yeah, and relationships do nothing but change you every day.
Mm-hmm.
They 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 change and challenge you every day,
Uh-huh.
and so does the toddler. You learn lot about your patient's level then. But
Mm-hmm.
and so what I end up doing with my clients when we talk about strengths is we talk about it from an executive functioning standpoint, and so I have everybody do an executive functioning assessment
Mm-hmm.
and really taking a look at just cognitively, like just from a neurological level, like what really are your strengths and how they work. And so when you were talking about the deep thinking work, it made me immediately think of just metacognition, which tends to be a stronger executive function for a lot of ADHDers. And so that big
Mm-hmm.
picture thinking, which is why you see a lot of us as entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
um, and really having a vision and being able to walk into meetings and see all the things that the other people aren't seeing, or seeing how they connect in ways that other people
Woo!
can't see. Um,
Yeah. I like
and
I'm
yeah,
getting goosebumps, Megan. Sorry to interrupt you. I know you can't see my reactions, but I'm getting goosebumps because what you're also pointing to is actually one of my top strengths. And I actually love the way that you were describing it. So, my top
Mhm.
strength is connectedness. And it is about that. It is about this like zoom up picture, getting to see things from this higher level, having vision, having an ability to see the patterns in things. And
Mhm.
I'm going to read you the description so folks know what it may look like for them. I think what's important about strengths too is that it actually lives out in different ways for different people. So my connectedness may show up this way, and your connectedness may show up a different way. But overall, connectedness folks believe that things happen for a reason, and they
Mhm.
have a powerful conviction that everyone is connected, and it could be everyone, everything, right? Like concepts, etc.
Mhm.
While they believe each person is responsible for their own judgments and actions, those with strong connectedness believe everyone is a part of something larger. So again, this like really big visions that they have, and they have a purpose behind their existence, and they're really strong in their faith sometimes. So it sustains them to understand patterns and just sort of be at this like yeah, this high level. Again, you can't
Mhm.
see me, but I'm like over here.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm listening to you read that, and I can definitely see how I can fall into that particular category as that being a strength of mine
Mhm,
too. And just really just thinking about it from an executive function standpoint, and like metacognition is a thing. And so just knowing that
mhm,
it all kind it all connects in one way or the other. And also thinking about ADHDers and like social justice sensitivity or um yeah, just in the concept of work and recognizing that you can see patterns and connections.
mhm.
A lot of
I
the
mean,
times that other people can't see. The problem is like you want to impulsively tell everybody every 2 seconds, and sometimes you're here, and then everybody's sitting at the table, and you're like you
I
move
see
beyond the
it.
table.
Yeah, I see it. Tell me, pick me. Well, it's interesting that you said that too, because I think it's a superpower in coaching to be able to have this ability to see the patterns. And clearly, active listening was my best lesson in my coaching program. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, I need to practice this a whole lot, and the fidgets help, right? Like holding my fingers like this help, but also taking notes
Mm-hmm.
has been a great strategy for me to be able to hold on to all of those thoughts that are brewing as I'm listening and thinking about it. It's actually a powerful practice to be able to, as a coach, hear all of the things that are coming your way, think about all the patterns that you're seeing. You can see it like
Yeah.
play out in your mind, and then develop that really powerful question that will drive, right, like that next set of conversation. So, yeah, connectedness has been a strength that I've been able to leverage in coaching. And I do think
Yeah.
that it like powers and complements my ADHD, and
Mm-hmm.
also, right, like can cause some tension, as we talked about that active listening piece.
Yeah. It definitely can cause some tension. But I would agree. I think it is a powerful gift. And and I would frame it as a gift too, just recognizing that you can make those connections for other people and things that they don't necessarily see because they're still processing that and that information, right? And so being able to say step back and ask to be able to point out something that you're observing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for people, I think is really powerful. And I think that's what's powerful in general about just accessing a coach, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to see that. And then if you're in therapy, like therapists do that too, right? It's like being able to point out some patterns to help
Mm-hmm.
you go into the direction that you want to go into and whatever
Mm-hmm.
goal that you're trying to reach. And that's when you see a lot of entrepreneurs and being like, I have a vision for this business, right? Like I know that this could be a multi-million dollar business because I can see the vision. Or and a lot of the times too, I feel like I had this conversation with another person on another live, and just being also to see other, like where other people can go in their life.
Mm,
Or like other like business owners come and talk to you, and then you're like, oh my God, like this, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this, and just having all these different ideas
mm,
um, to help, to support other people. Like,
mm.
don't. I mean, if you need an idea, just call me, and you tell me
Is
5 things, and I promise you, I got a new idea for you.
is ideation one of your top strengths? Do you remember what they were?
I don't, and I really, I guess I could have looked it up, but it's been so long
Yeah, you said
since I've.
you want to retake it.
Yeah, I want to retake it. It's been a really long time since I've taken that particular assessment. But it
Well,
is now that I've taken and learned more about executive functions, like I really want to take it and being able to compare them to my executive functioning strengths and weaknesses and
hmm
see and then apply strategies in order to support that.
hmm
Um,
What's the I guess yeah, what's the executive functioning for organization? Because
it's
I
called
literally
organization.
what's that?
It's called
Just
organization.
okay, so that one's a powerful one for me because at some point, like you can have disorganization with your finances, you can have disorganization with your physical space. And for something clicked. I don't know that I thought about it very intentionally, but something clicked where I was like, oh yeah, everything in my place needs to have a spot. It
Hmm.
needs to have a place for it. Like the keys can't just be everywhere because my forgetfulness will get to me and I'll be like, where are my keys? And I need to go. And right, you know the vibes. But it has led me to live somewhat of a minimalist life, where I'm like, I don't need many things, and
Hmm.
nor do I want them, because that helps me. That's a strategy to help me think about each thing will have a space.
Hmm.
And then the other example I thought about the other day with organization, and relative to my strengths. So one of my top strengths, actually, my number two is relator, which is like probably why we're on this live. It's all about, deep connection, depth with the people that you meet and that you get to be in connection with. Um, I use my relator to share one of my goals with one of my friends and colleagues. And then she was like, "Oh, I have a financial coach that can help you with that." And my goal back in 2019, before I bought my house in Durham, was I need to have like a solid budget. I was a 1099, and had never had a budget that I could stick to. I will say that like just being in collaboration, using that strength of relator to build a over 6 sessions a deep relationship with this financial coach where I could talk about my context around money, my mindset and perspectives around money, my fears around money,
Hmm.
was just super supportive, and she held my hand through it during the first couple of sessions. But in the end, using that strength to work on the organization was so
Hmm.
powerful, because now I use that same budget, and that carried me from full-time 1099 to full-time W-2 to now back to full-time 1099. And I'm just so grateful that I could leverage that strength and feel organized in that part of my life.
Yeah, and I love how you're connecting all of them together, right? And so,
Mhm.
because organization is not a natural strength of mine. However,
For a lot of us.
mentally, mentally, I would love to be organized, like, and I want to be that minimalist. Um, so in my mind, I'm a minimalist, and in reality, I have too much stuff. Because if you look in this direction,
We won't look there. We won't look there.
that's behind the curtain, to my left will tell you a lot about my organizational skills. However, but when it comes to like digital organization, there's so many different ways to think about organization, right? So there's
Oh
like the
yeah.
physical organization of your place, there's like the digital organization, and then there's also like just kind of mentally how are you organizing stuff in your brain, right? And so there's aspects of that I actually do really well, and like being able to organize my thoughts when I'm articulating them with other people, like I can do that.
Mhm.
But my desk area, no, man.
It's fine. It's
Um,
fine.
and so, you win some, you lose some. And
Yeah. Yeah. You can't
um,
perfect them all. I'm over
you
here like my
cannot.
Google Drive is a hot mess. Who wants to go in there?
Right. And so, but like I have everything in folders. Like I'm like super crazy when it comes to making sure that stuff is folders because I don't, and because of my time blindness
Mm,
with like goes along with ADHD, like what clicked for me, like yes, so in some things I do have a home for everything,
mm-hmm.
and like that's something that clicked with me too. But what also really clicked for me is how much time I was wasting looking for things,
Mm,
and so I needed my digital space to be organized, so
mm-hmm.
that I can find things a little bit easier.
That's so funny that you
Uh-huh.
say that because I'm over here like Control F is my BFF. Okay. It is like my best friend and it works. I'm like, what's that keyword?
It does. I feel like, yeah, it does. And I feel like, yeah, the control F is like is a really good thing. And my ChatGPT like prompts and queries too have gotten a little disorganized and it drives me crazy, but they also have a control find like function within it. And so
Hmm.
that has been helpful.
Hmm.
But it is important for me to like name things and like and make sure that I keep myself organized in that way.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just interesting. Like you can only do so much, right? Like so, it's recognizing that what are your strengths, but then also those strengths also can have some pitfalls, or I don't know how to describe them. Like there's just some blind spots,
Hmm.
or you just kind of need to think about how that strength can also kind of get in the way of whatever goal it is that you're trying to meet, and also how when you combine it with something else, either combine it with another strength or combine it with an area of growth or weakness, or however you feel comfortable describing it.
Hmm.
Um, it can either make it even stronger or it can hinder you in one way or the other.
Yeah, yeah. In the Clifton Strengths world, we call them lesser strengths, right? Because we can always like exercise them, but we
Hmm.
don't necessarily have to if we can use our strengths to work on the challenge that we're thinking about. I liken it to like think about how you use your dominant hand to write every single day. Well, if
Hmm.
somebody were to say, okay, now use your non-dominant hand every single day, everything might just be a little bit more challenging. So I might not want to use that lesser strength or that
Hmm.
non-dominant hand. But I can lean into my dominant hand and maybe write in cursive this time or write with a marker, right? Like there's different ways
Yeah.
to approach it. But I'm thinking about too what you just mentioned around combining the strengths and thinking about how that might enhance things. And I'm curious if you have any examples of um, where you've seen some of your strengths combine and power up together.
Yeah. I mean, I think in even just like in the context of business, right? Like the relationships piece, and being able to literally talk to anybody,
Hmm.
and not having a problem starting a conversation.
Hmm.
And
That's called
um,
WOO in the Strength Finders world. That's WOO, and it's an acronym for winning others over.
yeah, so that
Hmm.
and and what was it? Oh, and actually even organization, right? And so like when it comes to people and organizing them and remembering things about them, and I can do that really well, right? I
Hmm.
may not always remember people's names if I be honest, but I will remember everything else about them. I'll remember the cat's name before I remember their name for whatever reason. Um,
That's
I'm
hilarious.
like, how was Charlie? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, you must have not known Hickama's name because you would have said it earlier. Hickama's
I
my
did not.
dog, by the
I
way.
did not know Hickam's name.
Yeah.
Um, and so that and like big picture thinking, like in combining those skills, but the impulsivity and the time blindness, like you combine those two strengths, like it sometimes can be, it can counteract, I guess,
Yeah.
or I don't know if that's the right word, but it
It
can
can
get in the
hinder.
way. Yeah, hinder.
Yeah.
Like it can get in the way. And so like the example that I gave earlier, like you're in meetings and, strategy meeting or strategic thinking meeting or really whatever meeting, and you're seeing all the patterns and all the connections that people are missing,
Mm-hmm.
but then you blurt them out. Or if it's not
Mm-hmm.
your role, right? Like it's not necessarily your role to have these ideas, or if you're
Mm-hmm.
working in an environment that doesn't necessarily welcome creative thoughts. But you share that information anyway, and like it can step on people's toes, and like people have a whole lot of feelings if people have ideas, and it's not like a welcome space.
Yep.
Um, and so then you have to deal with all of that, right? And so then now the emotional dysregulation can kind of get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so what started out as in one perspective is a strength because you're being creative, you're being innovative, you have all these great ideas, you're being able to draw these connections and be able to really solve some problems for organizations.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not welcome, or you're stepping on people's toes and then people's egos get in the way, or
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
it's not really your role, and what you should be doing is something else, and so you're ignoring your actual tasks by doing the other
Yeah.
tasks,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and so that can, once you start combining some of your, you know some challenging executive functions and your
Mm-hmm.
strengths, then it can be problematic sometimes.
Yeah.
So you just need to be aware of what your strengths are and how to use them.
Yeah, and in what context to use them is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing too. It's interesting. My like conclusion was like, yeah, you need to check yourself. For me, me personally, like, girl, you need to check yourself. But it's because a similar example. So one of my biggest strengths is activator, and essentially, I'm like, all right, let's get started. Like I can remember our conversation about this live. I'm like, yes, and we can do this and we can do that. And
Hmm.
when do you want to do it? Tomorrow? But it it's that level of like excitement and energy at the start that is maybe fueled by some of my impulsivity that gets me into trouble sometimes because I'm like, oh my God, I'm like booked and busy and overbooked right now, right? Like, if you see my calendar from the past 5 years that I was working full time, it was like back to back to back to back from 9 to 5, multiple days in a row,
Which
most
is
days,
not good.
which is not good, right? Like that leads to emotional dysregulation and all these ideas of like, how am I keeping up
Hmm.
with all of this? And yeah, but we can go down that like whole emotional road that we experience as people with ADHD. And so I hear you on the barrier there, the hindrance there is like, all right, check yourself. Like you're excited about all of these things. What's in reality going to be the thing that actually you can move forward? Not only just start, but move forward, see it through, and get to the end
Yeah.
with.
I just posted a reel earlier today actually about being a toxic trait is related to, like you say that you're down and can and to do anything, right? Like you tell somebody like, oh yeah, just let me know and I can do anything whenever. And the reality is like you're really booked
Yeah,
2 months out.
yeah,
Um, but then also your ADHD brain is like, yeah, but if what you're offering is a little bit more exciting than what's on my to-do list, then
girl.
I'll just cancel whatever it is I'm supposed to do. And then you end up in a hole, right? And so
Yep.
then you're like, oh wait, but I really was supposed to read that report, or like I really was supposed to write this thing and I didn't because I wanted to do the thing that was a little bit more fun. That
Yeah.
my ADHD brain was like, absolutely, like forget this. Um,
Yep.
forget thing. And the same thing happens like, and just to bring it in the context of work, like you're in your email, something pops up, and then all of a sudden this now email feels like I need to do this right now.
Oh
And
yeah.
it could be true that in some contexts, like you actually do need to drop something and to be able to do it.
Sure.
And then in other cases you don't. And a lot of the times you don't. And so how do you prioritize your tasks and, you know, honor your interests,
Mm-hmm.
um, but and address any other feelings that you may have, whether or not it's a fear, whether or not it's anxiety, whether or not it's pressure,
Mm-hmm.
like how and
Mm-hmm.
honor those, and then but being able to prioritize things and make a decision that makes sense and be intentional about that.
Yeah.
Um,
All of those things came up for me um, in at work using Slack specifically. So Slack is just going up all the time. People are adding you. People are individually sending you messages. If you're on a thread as an FYI and that thread continues on for weeks, you will get notifications. And so one thing that I learned about like my need for organization to counteract, right, like the disorganization
mhm,
and the distraction was one, I needed my calendar to be my queen.
mhm,
And it is, it definitely drives every single part of me, which, you know, could be good or bad. But mostly good at work, especially when I use it effectively to say, all right, I need a break. All
mhm,
right, I need lunch and jicama during this time.
mhm.
Jicama, my dog, for those who just came, she needs a walk during the day. And then, right, like any other systems to help you remove distractions. So turning off the notifications,
Mhm.
muting channels, muting maybe particular people. Like you'll still see it bolded at some point, but just making sure that you like you said, not only honor your interests or honor your interests, and part of your interests are to achieve the things that you want to achieve too,
Yeah,
right? One thing that I learned in school leadership almost 10 years ago, talking about years, was that not everybody's emergency is your emergency. And so
mhm.
how do you create how do you create actually an environment in which emergencies can come up and you can calmly address them?
Yeah,
And I think systems, organization systems can really help with that and those various distraction strategies.
yeah. I think boundaries can help with that as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm
And
working on.
and one boundary for me is like I need to have like all of the different ways that I can be communicated with, like they just need to have certain rules,
Okay.
right? And so I do not want to have a back and forth conversation with you via email with like every email is like a sentence or two. Like just send me send me a text, send me a Slack message, send me something else. Like there's certain types of communication I want via email, and then there's certain communication that I just need
Mm,
shorthand, um, and sent to me in other ways if you're expecting a response. Um, because email has that added pressure of being like, okay, well, let me make sure that this is said right, and
mm,
like watching your
mm,
tone and all types of other stuff. Like it just has a completely different personality
mm,
um, than
mhm,
a chat function,
mhm.
and um, and also setting some boundaries on Slack also.
Yeah.
And in some contexts, like my I do contract with another company that has Slack, and I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
well, your Slack is going to be in my browser, and the
Oh, yeah.
Slacks that I actually enjoy engaging in, I'll use the app for, so that I can just close out that other one and I don't have to see it,
Yep.
and
Yep. Yeah.
and being able to just create some boundaries there,
Yeah.
and on terms of communication, and like not that you're expecting everybody to follow your rules, um, but it is good to have a conversation about it so that
Yeah.
people can get on the same page. Because even with Slack, like not everybody follows the rules of Slack, like right. It's just like
Oh,
people
they
just start
don't.
talking about all types of random stuff and all these
Yeah.
random channels,
Yeah.
and then get mad if you don't respond. And it's like, well, I don't have time for this. Like,
It's yeah, it can be the Wild Wild West. We had some good yeah, it really can. We had some good norms around it, but I think to your point, you know, they're broken here and there, and
mhm,
people will do what they do. And I agree. I think the boundaries are necessary, and I would even go to say that naming your boundaries could be helpful for people, especially because they
Mhm.
don't know, they may not know. I had a colleague call me, and we have each other's number, right? He like texted me, called me, and slacked me, and it was too much for me. So I just named like, hey, like a Slack is perfectly fine, and please do not, call me and text me simultaneously. And in fact, please don't call me and text me on my personal line for work matters,
Mhm.
because I am trying to create this boundary. It was me attempting stating it
Mhm.
for not only other people, or not only myself, but other people, instead of getting frustrated, right?
Right.
That like, oh, they're doing this thing that is really making me distracted and keeping me away from my organization and my systems. Well, they didn't know, so I needed
Mhm.
to also share that.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I do the same thing in my house. Like, I have multiple email addresses and I use them for different things. Like, so I have a
mhm,
business email, I have a
mhm,
personal email, and then I have a family email. So if it's not family related stuff, then
mhm,
send it to the other places. But if it is family stuff, like only send it to my family email because that's where my brain goes, where for family things.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
Otherwise, it's just going to get lost in the sauce of all of my other emails, and I don't want to have to create rules and all that other stuff. Like, I just have a separate email for that.
Because it's too much. It's too much. our,
Too
our
much.
our brains are not going to be able to function in that type of environment. So it's like, yeah, I needed to
Hmm.
be compartmentalized. I needed to be categorized and shifted in the places that
Hmm.
that I say.
Yeah.
This is the system that I'm
Yeah.
creating.
Yeah, this is the system. And I mean, and creating that is a strength.
Yeah.
And just, recognizing that if you can create a system to help keep yourself organized in a way, then that's
Mm-hmm.
going to work for you, then put that in your strengths category.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
access that in all aspects of your life. So if it's a strategy that is working for you in your home, then what would that look like if you access that same strategy in your finances?
Mm-hmm.
How would it look like if you access that same strategy, communication strategy, or whatever in your relationship? What would it look like for you to apply that same strategy if you're transitioning from one job to the next? And so thinking about what are you doing well in one area of your life and how can that be applied to another area?
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. That's exactly right. Yeah, like that's the question as a strengths-based coach that I ask, even if we're not focused on Clifton strengths. It's like, what's working already about XYZ that you can apply to ABC,
Mm-hmm.
right? This new challenge that you're encountering. Or I might uplift, like, I know that you've been confident about this project and this is why, right? Like how might you be able to leverage that in this new project? So building on your strengths and continuing to flex that muscle is super important. And that
Mm-hmm.
does speak to what I shared earlier, which is like your strengths can play out so differently in different contexts.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a helpful thing to speak on. It also made me think about my number six strength, which is a ranger, mostly because I was thinking about like complex situations or when there's many things. Arrangers are like conductors. They're able to like manage all the things and thrive in multitasking, which like can sometimes be the case with ADHD if you're self-regulated, right? Like
Yeah.
if you got all the systems in place. But when I'm not regulated and when I feel entirely distracted, I am not the conductor of my life.
Yeah.
I just shut down. I'll close the computer. I'll say this is it. Like I'm done for the day. My brain can't handle more.
Mhm.
And I think honoring, that is important too.
Yeah, and then from an executive functioning perspective, I would say that's like a combination of some emotional regulation work or dysregulation that could potentially be happening, and also flexibility.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and is
mm,
flexibility one of your strengths? And managing, like regulating your emotions in general is just typically not a strength of ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but when you add it to flexibility, which could potentially be a strength, that's when you start to shut your computer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're in a position where you can shift really quickly and come up with the next new idea really quickly, or just shifting things doesn't bother you as much,
Mm-hmm.
then flexibility may be a strength of yours.
I love
And
that.
so
Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say it's easier to be able to shift and use the language of like conduct like what's going on in your life you're not when you are
Yeah.
regulated, right? And so you can tap into your big picture thinking and metacognition, and you can tap into your ability to be
Mm-hmm.
flexible. But it's really hard to do that if you're dysregulated.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you highlighted that because a ranger is able to manage the present moment because of their gifts of management, but not necessarily because they yearn to manage the moment. And
Mm-hmm.
then the adaptability strength is all about that flexibility and versatile. So if you have that adaptability strength, you actually desire, like you get excitement from being able to pivot. That is
Mm-hmm.
not my strength at all. I'm actually gonna look. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. It is one of my lesser strengths. It is number 30 out of 34. Pivoting is challenging for
Yeah.
me. And it definitely the impacts of ADHD on anxiety and depression,
Mm-hmm.
but specifically anxiety in this moment, it's like pivoting can really trigger that anxiety of like, well, what will happen if we pivot?
Yeah.
And it sounds so crazy saying it out loud, but that is the feeling that
Mm-hmm.
comes over me sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say like I can pivot really well. I mean, I don't because I feel like with the executive functioning questionnaire in particular, they ask a question like, do you thrive in like environments that where things essentially like change frequently or something like that, or do you want to? I'm like, I don't want to, but I can.
Yeah,
Um,
I
like
will.
I will, and it doesn't bother me. But at the same time, like when I reflect on previous
Mm,
positions, and that was one of the reasons why I knew I felt like I needed to leave because like it was way too much. Like it was just too
too
many
much
pivots.
pivoting.
Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the pivoting was just starting to get overwhelming because
yeah,
you also once you pivot a lot, you don't feel like you're finishing anything either.
yep.
And so it's just like you're working on something and you don't get it finished, and then all of a sudden you got to pivot to something else, and you just feel like this like incompletion.
Hmm.
But then also it's just I can when you think about all the research and stuff about multitasking, I have a lot of feelings about it in general. I think the language is wrong. I do think that there's a lot of task switching. And so I think there's a difference
Hmm.
between task switching and multitasking. And when I have to task switch a lot, like I have my limit in the number of times that I can task switch in a day.
Mm.
Um, and it was important for me to recognize, like, okay, listen, I can work on this area. Oh, no.
What?
Is he okay?
Oh, oh,
So he's okay.
okay, good.
Uh, my poor little baby.
Oh, we hear him. Oh, baby.
Um, okay.
It's
Um,
okay.
the task switching can be a lot.
Yeah.
But I also would tell people like you need to really study yourself and what your limits are and be clear about what those limits are. And so like I can task switch during the day, but I can't do too many task switches before I go crazy or it's just draining.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
um, but I would argue, but for me, I feel like I multitask all day, but not necessarily task switch all day, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, yeah, it would be helpful for you to, like, I think I know the distinction, and it would be helpful for you to define it. I actually think
Yeah,
that I multitask, no, that I task switch all day, and I like doing
yeah.
that. Because it attracts all those different interests at different times, and it actually melds well with my achiever strength, which is my number 5. Basically, like, I like to get shit done. I like to get
Hmm.
shit done, and I'm like, ooh, I got it done over here. Ooh, I got it done over there. Ooh, check. In all the ways, and it makes me feel good. Obviously, lots of dopamine hits there. That's problematic in itself as we talk about hindrances. But yeah, I am curious, like, what would you say the
Yeah.
difference is?
I think I'm trying to think about like, okay, so like the other day I recorded myself and I still need to put it on, I'm going to put it on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
where I was recording myself trying to make some muffins for my son in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I rewatched that video and I'm like, girl, you're all over the place. And I definitely think I was just trying to do too much, but like I guess my tasks were all related to cooking. And so like I wasn't doing a whole lot of task switching, but I was multitasking. Um, I don't know if I am really in defining them differently. I think maybe I need to reflect on this a little bit more. Um, but when I was trying to make coffee. I was trying to tend to my son because he was also in the kitchen and he was helping. And
Cute guy.
um, and I was also trying to make these daggone muffins. So I really was just trying to do those three things.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a disaster. And it mostly was a disaster because I was getting overwhelmed by my son's need for
Mm-hmm.
attention.
Mm-hmm.
Because then once he was gone, the whole process was a lot smoother. And so I did everything. The kitchen wasn't a mess, like everything. I had to do a lot of deep breathing when I was trying to cook that morning, and you see it all
Okay.
on camera. Um, and so,
We can't wait to see it.
yeah, and so maybe in that context, I was doing too much task pushing, and I don't know. Maybe I just need to look it up.
We'll look
I think you
it
have
up.
challenged me here. I think this is a challenge for me to really be clear about the differences between task switching and multitasking.
Yeah.
Um, or does multitasking just involve task switching? I don't know. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, no, like, here we are being like in our intellection bags, reflecting on
Yeah,
our reflections.
yeah,
And I love it. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Go down that road.
Um, if
Um,
people are still watching, if they had questions, like feel free to put stuff in the chat too.
yeah.
Um, if you have any thoughts or if you recognize traditions, I am curious to see, like, how are people identifying their strengths if they are?
Mhm.
What tools are you using? Who are you talking to? How are you getting this information? Do you do you have a clear understanding of what your strengths are and how to use them?
Mhm.
If not, then ask us. Like you can reach
Mhm.
out to either of us
Mhm.
to get a deeper dive into better understanding what works for you. I think it's helpful to work with a coach in that context. And I know we've been talking for about almost an hour,
Yeah,
which the time kind of went by really
I
fast.
know. When you're having fun
Yeah,
and talking about strengths and coaching
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, all the things.
Um, but did you have anything that you wanted to tell the audience about, like in terms of like your services or anything else, anything like that?
Yeah, sure. So, as I mentioned, strength-based coach. So I do one-on-one services, group coaching, so individual coaching, group coaching, strengths-based facilitation. So, talking about ADHD at work, in your workplaces with your teams, if it's helpful to have this assessment taken by everybody, even if it's just you and your what am I trying to say? Like, smaller team or the bigger organization. Strengths-based culture is growing, and it is super, super helpful to understanding, like, why does my colleague ask so many questions at the start of every project? Or
Hmm.
why does Megan come with ideas to every single meeting? Or why is Lourdes always switching her seat from her desk to her standing desk to her couch?
Hmm.
So it just helps you understand your colleagues a bit better, and then helps you understand how to leverage them in your work. So collaborating better, and then, obviously understanding yourself better. So definitely, if folks are interested, that's available via me.
Yeah, and what I like about that approach too, in terms of using this language, is that it feels safer, if I'm being honest, than
Hmm.
because I talk about this a lot in the context of work and include like in having inclusive work environments, right? And being clear that we all just have different brains and
Hmm.
we have those different strengths and the different weaker executive functions, and that's okay, and that there's just
Hmm.
a difference in the way that we actually process information.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of the times that can feel really scary talking about ADHD
Hmm.
in that context of work. And there's a lot of opinions about that, right? It comes with a lot of
Hmm.
bias, it comes with a lot of other opinions, but like
Hmm.
utilizing some different language can be absorbed a little bit
Yeah.
better too, because like, using like explaining why I need to get up every 2 seconds or just switching positions in the context of like the strengths, Clifton strengths language versus being like, I have ADHD and like I just need to get up. Like it is what it
Yeah.
is. Like
Yeah. That's the
and
main
so
reason.
right, like so like if you're not comfortable
Yep.
just saying that, like for me, I'm clearly out here in the world telling
Hmm.
everybody that I have ADHD.
Hmm.
And so like it is what it is. And like and I don't have I'm not I don't currently hold on to the guilt and the shame and the like and the feelings that come along with being able to speak about my diagnosis. And people are different places in their journey, right?
Hmm.
So I'm just be like, listen, I have ADHD and I need to get up all around. And if you have a problem with it, then that sounds like a
Hmm.
personal problem for me. Um,
Because I get to exist in this world too with my
Exactly.
neurospicy
Right.
self.
And so, but that takes like a level of confidence and advocacy skills. And if you're not there
Yep.
yet, like utilizing some different language and having some other language to be able to use I think is really helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
And
some,
common language to
yeah.
that point, right? Because then everybody else is talking about their strengths too. And
Hmm.
you're highlighting things that work for you.
Hmm.
But there's things that work for you in this per our whole conversation that are associated with ADHD. So yeah, I think it definitely is a tool. I will also say that it is a helpful transition to even just talking about what you need and who you are with
Hmm.
your colleagues if you're not doing that already. I come from the education space. We're doing that all the time. We talk about our feelings, we talk about how we're coming into a meeting, but
Yeah.
this allows you to do that more, in other settings.
Yeah. Somebody put the via character strengths
Oh, nice.
in the chat too. I feel like I have so many feelings about the VA character strengths. I feel like it's confusing for people because of the way that things are ranked. But like how I like to use them, I really think about them as your value system more than
Mm-hmm.
strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I like to use the language value system and just be clear, like these are things that you value, and this is how your values are ranked.
Mm-hmm.
And just like with your using the language of strengths, like your value system is great in some contexts, and then in other ways it can get in the way, depending on what you're doing. But I do use the via character strengths too. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I
But I
know
feel like it'd be
someone.
like via character values. Like I don't know. I don't
I
feel like
agree.
strength is the right word.
I agree with that renaming it. I got a little confused when I saw somebody's email signature. So my strengths are in my email signature, and I saw their strengths in their email signature, but they were different, and they linked the via strengths assessment to their actual signature, so folks weren't confused.
Hmm.
But when I saw the like nomenclature of the strengths, I was like, this doesn't sound this sounds like values or like belief systems
Yeah.
or yeah, something more like value based.
Yeah, that's the only way that that particular assessment can make sense to me is looking at it as this is just your value system.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
um, so I just wanted to note that since somebody put it in the chat.
Nice.
But But anyway, so the things that we need to end soon. We need to end. I gotta go.
Mhm.
The
Mhm. You got your
otherwise I
coaching.
feel like I could talk to you forever, especially I can't see your face either. So like I
Just
can't see if you're
chatting.
like over the conversation. Um and
No, I'm not. I'm still
um
smiling, but I know you got to go, and we've been talking for an
yeah.
hour. I'm sure we
So
could talk.
I just wanted to tell people some other things that are coming up. So things that I have a financial advisor coming in next Thursday at 8 p.m. and we have a workshop. And we're going to be talking about retirement planning. So, part of my mission with my company and is also around like really just addressing all the things that we don't want to deal with.
Mm,
ADHD is I can give us a little angst feeling. And one of
mhm.
them is just planning for the future, right? We have a very now, not now way of thinking sometimes, and that can get in the way. And so we're going to be doing a conversation, a workshop around retirement planning. So he's going to be talking about retirement, and I'm going to be chiming in about how ADHD can potentially get in the way of his advice and what to do about that. So we're going to be doing a little combo effort here. I'm the person
Nice.
coming in with the ADHD information. He's coming in with the financial information. And now, just for context, I sometimes I have guest speakers, and we do things with the both of us. Both people that are involved are really aware and clear about how ADHD works and functions. And then sometimes I don't, and that's also intentional. That's intentional because in the real world, you're
Mm-hmm.
most likely going to be working with people that either don't know anything about ADHD or are not interested in learning anything about
Yep.
ADHD and how it could be impacting you, and their advice isn't helpful. And so instead of it's just not right. And so instead of getting stuck there and not moving forward to reach your goal, like so I'm bringing in people that literally don't know. Like I'm teaching them about ADHD just as much as they're teaching me about whatever it is the subject is. And so we're just having an open, honest conversation about that. Like, so how to work with people that don't know anything about how your brain works is just part of the process also.
Love
Uh,
that.
so that's happening on the 17th, but then the following week I'm doing a 2-day goals workshop, and so that is like setting and achieving your goals with ADHD. And so day one is going to be some educational work and some coaching, and then the next day is going to be a little bit of coaching, but then also application. So whatever you learn, whatever you bring, like we're going to be doing. So we don't want to be in a place where we learn a whole bunch of things and then it just sits on a shelf. We want to be able to apply some of the things that we learned and refine our goals. We're in quarter 2, and so we don't want to move too far into the year and being like, oh my God, I didn't accomplish anything. And so here we are kind of doing a little bit of check-in, making sure that we have goals that make sense and that we have the strategies that we need to put into place to make sure that we're successful in keeping our ADHD in mind. So that is also happening.
Nice.
Um, Links for both of those will be in my profile. So if you are interested in joining, then that is available for everybody.
Nice, nice, nice. And we'll be having another conversation soon,
Oh
right?
yeah,
I don't know that
we
we
are.
planned it, like have a date.
I don't know if we
Here's where my
have a date.
time blindness comes in.
I don't think we have a date either, but we do need to have a date. We can
Yeah,
make sure we get a date. We will get a date squared away this week.
yeah,
And
we'll do it.
then I'm going to be coached live. Aren't y'all excited? The,
Ooh, that
the
means you
coach is
do need
getting
to
coached.
retake the test.
Oh, okay. The coach is getting coached live on Instagram. Get ready for if you don't think that I'm raw and vulnerable now, then wait until then.
I
Um,
can't wait.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. I hope you're all excited about it too. Anyway, this has been a really great conversation. I'm actually going to be joining my group coaching program. We have our group coaching session on Thursdays at 8 p.m. if you are part of Thrive program. And so that is happening in a few minutes. And so I'm just going to mentally prepare, make sure that my son is okay, because I don't know what happens upstairs.
You will be.
And he's quiet now, so he must be okay. And and then I'm going to join my group. But this has been great. Thank you
Yes,
so
it
much for joining.
has. Thank
Jumbo
you,
Love.
Megan.
Um,
Jumbo love. I love that.
Jumbo Love. I had a little elephant. My son has I don't know where it is, but otherwise I would put them together. The
Okay.
elephant and the
Next
elephant
time.
and
Next time.
next time I will have the elephant and the heart. Okay. Um, but thank you for
Thank
joining.
you for
I
having
hope that everybody
me.
that was listening was able to get a lot out of this conversation. And then if you are going to my group coaching session that's happening in 15 minutes, I will see you there.
Have a great night,
You
Megan, and thank you again
too.
for having me. This is
No
wonderful.
problem. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.